Yo, what's going on? Welcome into the show. You're watching Philadelphia Eagles Now. My name is Chase Sr., and as always, no matter where you are or how you're tuned in, thank you so much for supporting the show and making today's Philadelphia Eagles Now a part of your day. Coming up, going into the preseason finale, Friday night against the New York Jets, we are going to do a roster bubble watch. I'm breaking down which players are on that roster bubble going into the final preseason game. And of note, roster cutdown day is on Tuesday. All 32 teams across the NFL have to trim their rosters from 90 players down to 53 by 4 p.m. Eastern on Tuesday, August 26th. And of course, as soon as we find out what that Eagles roster is, I'll provide you with a video here on Eagles Now, and that's why you hit that subscribe button. So I'm going to go through offense and defense in order, and I'm going to go through roster locks and then players on the bubble after that. So the two players who I believe are roster locks at the quarterback spot, Jalen Hurts at QB1, Tanner McKee at QB2. I don't think that Kyle McCord and Dorian Thompson-Robinson or whoever is going to be QB3 is a lock to make the team because the Eagles are deep elsewhere and they could bring back a quarterback on the practice squad. At the running back position, two more players here who are locks. Saquon Barkley is RB1, Will Shipley as RB2. And Will Shipley is the backup second-string running back behind Saquon Barkley. I know a lot of you are saying, Chase, there's no way the Eagles are going to cut A.J. Dillon. If it comes down to roster Tetris and roster gymnastics, they could cut Dillon in order to keep a player at a different position where they're deep, and then they could bring A.J. Dillon back on the practice squad. Since he is a veteran, he doesn't have to pass through waivers. That's the roster gymnastics that I speak of. At the wide receiver spot, A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Jahan Dotson, and John Mechie are locks for me. You make that trade for Mechie, he's going to make the team. You don't give up Harrison Bryant and draft compensation for Mechie and a draft pick if he's not going to make the team, especially when you make that move this close to the start of the regular season. At the tight end position, the aforementioned Harrison Bryant traded away to the Houston Texans for John Mechie, who wasn't going to make this team. And what the Eagles have done the last couple of years, they've held on to two tight ends on the initial 53. I think that could be the strategy once again. And then they keep a tight end, bring one back on the practice squad, and elevate them to the active roster on game day. So Dallas Goedert and Grant Calcaterra, the surefire two tight ends who are roster locks for me. Along the offensive line, your starters, Jordan Mailata at left tackle, Landon Dickerson at left guard once he comes back, Cam Jurgens at center, Tyler Steen at right guard, and Lane Johnson at right tackle. I think Drew Kendall, 6th-round pick out of Boston College, a lock to make this team. He is the backup behind Cam Jurgens, who's coming off offseason back surgery. And then I think Matt Pryor is also a lock to make this team because he can play guard, he can play tackle, and the Eagles love his positional versatility. So that is 7 players who I believe are roster locks along the offensive line, which segues me to my offensive players on the bubble here. Both of the quarterbacks competing to be QB3 are on the bubble, and they have to play well against the Jets in the final preseason game. If Kyle McCord plays well, he's going to be QB3. But will he make the initial 53, or do the Eagles run the risk of cutting him, hoping that he passes through waivers? He has been QB2 this week, with Tanner McKee missing time due to a finger issue. So clearly he is above DTR in the pecking order. I haven't been impressed with DTR throughout camp at all. A.J. Dillon, for the reasons that I mentioned, is on the bubble. He had to start the second preseason game. He got some carries, but the Eagles wanted to see how he looked. I thought he looked good against Cincinnati. He didn't get a lot of opportunities against Cleveland. I think ultimately he's going to be on this team, but in what capacity? I think Darius Cooper is as close to a lock as it gets, but with that trade of John Mechie, we're really not sure what Howie Roseman and Nick Sirianni are going to do at the wide receiver position, and so I'm putting Cooper, Johnny Wilson, and Ainias Smith all on the roster bubble. But going back to Cooper here, I think a team's actions tell the story. Darius Cooper has been getting a lot of snaps with the first-team offense, and he's also performing with the first-team offense. He has caught some passes from Jalen Hurts. He's made plays, And this isn't a knock on Jahan Dotson, who has had a good spring and a good summer, a good training camp, good preseason. But Darius Cooper has looked like the number 3 wide receiver. He is also getting some reps with the first team special teams unit on kickoff coverage and as a return man. And so it could come down to the Eagles cutting one of Darius Cooper, Ainias Smith, or Johnny Wilson. Of note, Johnny Wilson did get carted off at practice on Tuesday. Could he start the year on PUP? And that's another roster gymnastics, roster Tetris avenue that Howie Roseman could explore. I don't think that Terrace Marshall or Elijah Cooks are going to make this team. I'm not even putting them on the roster bubble. Other players on the bubble here for me. Kylen Gransen as tight end 3. He's competing with E.J. Jenkins, but E.J. Jenkins is ahead of him right now. Brett Touth played deep into that second preseason game. He's played center and left guard. If he's going to make this team, it's because of his positional versatility. I know that he was first up in getting snaps at left guard after the Landon Dickerson injury, but the fact that he played center as well tells me his roster standing is a little bit rocky. The Eagles used a 6th-round pick on Cameron Williams. I hope he makes this team because I like him as a developmental player, but he's definitely not a lock. The fellow 6th-round pick, Myles Hinton, he struggled a little bit in preseason games. You have Kendall Lamm, who can also, like Matt Pryor, play tackle and guard. Trevor Keegan could play center and guard. Then you have Shunderrick Powell, who I think the Eagles have kind of hid throughout preseason. They don't want too much tape getting out on him because they're a believer he has an NFL future, and I agree with that. A programming reminder, be sure to join us on Friday. We'll be doing a watch party for Eagles-Jets preseason game number 3. We'll once again do an hour pregame show to preview and set the stage for everything. Be sure to join us at 6:30 p.m. Eastern, 3:30 p.m. out there on the West Coast. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Therefore, anytime we go live, anytime we push out a show like this, you will be notified. Our sponsor for today's Philadelphia Eagles now, our friends at Chubby's. We're so excited to have them as a sponsor under the Chat Sports umbrella for the 2025 NFL season. And I know a lot of people out there have been asking me, Chase, where did you get this shirt? Where did you get this shirt? I got it thanks to our friends at Chubby's. And you can get your Philadelphia Eagles polo at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. Now, this is a part of the NFL collection. We'll have discount information on this next week. But if you want any of their other products, chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. Use that link. It'll take you to the promised land. And I know that summer is winding down, but there is still time to add to your wardrobe. You can get a great Chubby's swimsuit as part of their lined swim collection. You can get some Chubby's original stretch shorts, or you can get the Chubby's Performance Polo. If you want to combine everything, you'll be looking good, feeling good. And what I love about Chubby's, they give you comfy, casual, built-for-life clothing. And you can wear it to a variety of things, right? Getting some drinks with the homies, taking a significant other out for a date, a brunch, backyard party, sitting by the pool, accidentally crashing a wedding. Sometimes myself and Chip will just do that because we like to have some fun and live on the edge. The polo, structured collar that stays sharp, 4-way stretch for comfort and breathable moisture-wicking fabric makes it so comfortable. Get $10 off using our code CHATSPORTS by also using that link down below, chatsports.com/chatsports. Whether you're suiting up for cannonballs, cookouts, casual Fridays, Chubby's has you covered. For a limited time, Chubby's giving our listeners, our viewers, $10 off your order using our code CHATSPORTS at chubbyshorts.com/chatsports. Make sure you let them know that we sent you. Support our show. Philadelphia Eagles now. Chase Sr. bringing the heat. All right, to the defensive side of the ball for Philadelphia. These players along the defensive line are roster locks. And specifically here, I'm talking about interior defensive linemen. You have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ajomo, Ty Robinson, and Gabe Hall. After the trade of Thomas Booker, I now think that Gabe Hall is a lock to make this Eagles team. He was a UDFA in 2024 out of Baylor. He's kind of in that similar build to Thomas Booker, a slimmer interior defensive lineman who can slip through gaps with a lot of speed and explosiveness at the snap. and I think that he's going to make this team. 2 outside linebacker, otherwise known as pass rusher, Nolan Smith, Jalix Hunt, Josh Uche, and Azeez Ojulari are locks there. At inside linebacker, the Eagles are the deepest that they've been at off-ball linebacker in years. No joke, maybe even decades, because Howie Roseman, prior to the last couple of years, hasn't really valued this spot. Zach Baun, Jahad Campbell, Jeremiah Trotter Jr., Smile Mondon. The question is, who will be the 2 starting off-ball linebackers week 1 against Dallas? We know that Zach Baun is going to be one of them. Is it going to be Campbell or Axeman Jr. as the other? Roster locks at corner: Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Jacorian Bennett, and Mac McWilliams. 2 of the top young corners in the game in Quinyon Mobe and Coop. Exciting whites. You made the trade for Jacorian Bennett. He's going to make this team. And other than Quinyon Mitchell, might be the most gifted outside corner on this team. Used a fourth-round pick on Mac McWilliams. He started to get snaps at outside corner exclusively. I thought in the preseason game against Cleveland, he did some good things there. Roster locks at safety: Reed Blankenship, Andrew Makuba, Sidney Brown. And I already know a lot of people are saying a lot of things down in the comment section, especially at that cornerback spot, where I did not include Adoree Jackson and Kelee Ringo. So we'll get into it here in just a moment. Defensive players on the bubble along that defensive line: interior defensive linemen and edge rushers: Byron Young, Jacob Sykes, Patrick Johnson, Ogbo Okoronkwo, Antwaun Powell-Ryland. The most impressive player throughout camp and in the preseason has been Patrick Johnson. And over time, Patrick Johnson has become a terrific preseason player at that edge rusher spot for Philadelphia. I mean, he really popped against Cincinnati. He had the sack that got called back. Next play, he had that interception that he nearly brought back for a pick 6. Against Cleveland, sniffed out that reverse, had a big TFL. He's probably the best player here. Does he have the most upside? There's also some roster politics here. The Eagles used a 6th-round pick on Antwaun Powell-Ryland. Really hasn't done much throughout all of the preseason. And so if you want to have the best players, I think Patrick Johnson should probably make this team. But you also have some players here who are interesting. Byron Young, a former 3rd-round pick. Jacob Sykes had a nice splash play in week 1 against Cincinnati. Ogbo Okoronkwo has been a productive edge rusher throughout his career. And again, you drafted Antwaun Powell-Ryland. My guess, I think Patrick Johnson makes the team once again. Maybe Philadelphia trades him to an edge-needy team. And then to the juicy portion of the defensive side of the ball, right? I am putting Eli Ricks, Kelee Ringo, and Adoree Jackson on the roster bubble. Now, I think that 1, 2, or perhaps even all 3 of these players will make the team. But if they do not make the team, I would not be surprised. Kelee now has a quad injury. His snaps with the first-string defense have been decreasing. A lot of red flags in that preseason opener against the Cincinnati Bengals where he got dominated by Jamar Chase. It's not like Adoree Jackson has played better, but he's gotten a bulk of the snaps there at cornerback too, just because nobody's won that job. Eli Ricks has a lot of ability. He's very long and lengthy, and I think that he makes this team, but he's definitely not a lock to make the squad. And then elsewhere in that secondary, Andre Sam, I think, has been better than Tristin McCollum. He could be the 4th safety over McCollum, and that would have been a surprise if we mentioned that at the start of training camp. And then there's Brandon Johnson, who might be the backup slot right now. He's done some nice things throughout camp and the preseason, a UDFA out of Oregon, but I think the Eagles could cut him and bring him back to the practice squad. So obviously here, there is a controversy at the cornerback spot. Look, I think ultimately Ricks, Adoree, Kelee, they make the team. But I'm just not going to be surprised if they don't. Philadelphia could also trade one of them away. They could trade for another corner. Or what Philadelphia could do, they could really canvass the rest of the NFL and have a close eye on the waiver wire to see which corners on other corner-deep teams get let go, and Philadelphia could add one of those players. Tariq Castro-Fields, I think, is a good practice squad candidate. Former late-round pick out of Penn State by the 49ers. He didn't make their initial 53. Then he went to Washington. In the first preseason game against Cincinnati, he was targeted 3 times. He had 3 PBUs. He's also injured. So what Philadelphia could elect to do you reach an injury settlement there? Do you put him on PUP? Again, roster gymnastics is going to be prevalent here for all teams across the NFL. And then as specialists, you have 2 players here. Avery Williams, who the Eagles signed as a punt returner and kick returner, and Ben Van Sumeren as a fullback and special teams player. Jeffrey Lurie did say that the Eagles want to resurrect the fullback position. Could they cut Van Sumeren, bring him back to the practice squad, elevate him to the active roster for game day, and then figure it out a little bit later? That's a possibility. Or as a fullback and a really good special teams player, he might just make the 53. But then you're taking another player away from another deep position there. And the same can be said for Avery Williams. Cooper DeJean is capable of returning punts. Ainias Smith is capable of returning punts. And those players have more of an impact elsewhere, more so than Avery Williams, who I just don't see a lot of it at running back or wide receiver with his impact there. But this roster crunch, going to be fascinating for Howie Roseman in Philadelphia, because this is a deep and talented team that Philadelphia has in 2025. And so, again, I've said it a couple times, but the roster gymnastics, the roster Tetris, I'm fascinated to see how it plays out. Be honest with me. Who did I miss? What do you disagree with down in the comments section? You're Eagles fans, smartest fans in all of football. I know you know ball, so let me know down in the comments section.